I just put up my art as my background.
It looks amazing.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yours is a real background, right, Megan?
Yeah, it's like a cool thing I got off Amazon.
It's so cute. I'm obsessed with it.
My background in the Casey's is all I don't know if you can make it out, but it's all snow.
Oh,
No, it's kind of funny. This like that's actually supposed to go in my my studio for my live streams as a musician. And like my solo project is like I'm called Black Wolf on it, and so it was like appropriate.
Well, I think we have everyone here. So I just want to informally welcome everyone. Hey, so happy that this worked out for us to have this conversation, dialogue around the work that we're doing, our stories, and this transformation and transition into the metaverse, should we say? And what art looks like in that. So I will pass it over to our wonderful hostess, Meg, to get us started. Thanks.
all right. So let me get the butterflies out. Okay. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here and sharing this time and space with us all. I want to give a big shout out to Transform Exhibit for bringing us all together today. And I think as artists, we are the future, but we're currently exploring a major transformation. I would love to hear a bit about your story and how your art is transforming the world we live in. And I know it's kind of a loaded question. So I'm going to draw the short straw first, and I will start. So my name is Megan Rakos. I was adopted from Cusco, Peru as a baby, and I was raised by a white family in the suburbs of Minnesota. I am the creative director of SuperRare. My partner and I, Sam Hersher, we were both adopted, which brought so much confusion within who we are. So SuperRare has become an extension of us, or a tool to express those feelings and make sense of them. We're transforming the world we live in by exploring our identity and sharing how our two worlds collide. So the adopted kind of side, like growing up like this white kind of culture, and I guess our roots and like the technology and how we're kind of merging this together. So think of it like the luscious green world of Apocalypto meets the sharp futuristic like Blade Runner with a happy filter. Because if you've seen Blade Runner, it's a little bit doom and gloom. So my vision is kind of and how we create is, what does that look like? As far as us creating collages or any kind of graphic design, what does that feel like? And then we create apparel. So what does that feel like? And what does that sound like? Sam is a wonderful musician, and he's bringing in the past and the future and kind of trying to figure out what that sounds like. And so that's a bit about me. And I will call on your name, and you can give us a brief intro about yourself and how your art is transforming the world we live in. So first up, we will go with Evelisa.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Meg, and thanks to everyone here. And I'm really excited for our conversation today. So my name is Evelisa. I am the co-curator of Transform Exhibit. I am a Sicilian Italian painter, and I also work in inclusion, and I'm all about building bridges with people from different backgrounds and building more understanding and more compassion for a better future together. And that's kind of what is the theme behind transformation. It's how do we have more healing and understanding relationships together so we can coexist in a respectful way. And I've just found in my own career and journey that art has been the way to do that. Even though I've worked in government and more trying to change the system through policy or advocacy, it just seems like art is a way to really bring different voices together in a way that's really authentic, rather than trying to be something that you're not. People can just step in and be who they are. And my art, personally, how it's trying to transform is my art is really almost like artistic service to the people that I work with. I really work one-on-one with individuals or even couples to go through their own story and journey and really pull out their and celebrate kind of the beauty in who they are. It sounds very cheesy, but It's really meant to be bringing that light in people's spirit and soul and reflecting that in painting. So it really has become my artistic service to people, if that makes sense. And I've just always created art and painted because it was the way to, work through the things that I didn't always have the words for. And so if I can do that for myself, I love doing that with others. So I'm very much a co-creating type of person. And that's really my approach even to transform. Having Meg here and creating with her together on this discussion, it's really sharing the space together. And that's what I'm trying to model with us here today, is how do we share space in a way that's respectful and lifts all boats, if that makes sense, lifts all tides, boats, that sort of thing. Anyway, so thank you so much. And I will pass it on to Quinn to introduce themselves.
Bonjour, Anin. Hello, my name is Quinn. I am half Anishinaabe and half first generation English, living in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I don't even know where to start about my art. I have been an artist since I was like 10 years old. Always encouraged to pursue the arts. I grew up, in a suburban neighborhood, actually quite privileged because my dad was very, successful with business. So I always had access to art, and I also had family that didn't have access to art, and that kind of made me disconnected from them in some ways, where like I found like I didn't understand sports as much, and they were always into like hockey and lacrosse. Just like growing up separated from them, I didn't know how to connect with them until later in life when I found my culture. I kind of went through a couple of different phases and developed pretty severe depression, and art always grounded me and made me so much more whole. So culture and art were always together, and fulfilling myself, my identity. And eventually I just decided to pursue art full time, and NFTs over the past 8 months have actually made that dream a reality. More and more every day I'm able to, support myself to create more art through selling NFTs because it allows for a more diverse group of people to tell their story without having those like gatekeepers in like galleries that decide the value of your art. It's the collectors. So anyways, that's just like, yeah, anyways, that's a little bit about me. I'll pass it on to David.
Hi. Thanks, Quinn. I really like your story. Has inspired me. I'm David Thomas, Anishinaabe from Peguis First Nation, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I guess 7 hours north of Minneapolis. I grew up really creative. My mom was in residential school. Both my parents were, and my mom was in residential school for 5 years and taken away at 12. And she told my brother and I I'm going to give you guys what I never had. So she made no limits for us, my younger brother and I growing up. So we had all of these things given to us that were to create and make things. And it was like nonstop. She pushed us. And so I grew up kind of like on the edge of always creating, that kind of like anxious feeling that you're making something, and I grew up with that feeling all the time. So when I got into architecture school, I got married young, and my marriage broke apart when I was like in my late 20s, I think, or early 30 or something. And I was in architecture school. I just started the same week that basically my life fell apart, and my internal base of being creative was what carried me through that time in architecture school as well, which was like 60, 70 hours a week. So I had to draw on, like, go back to where I was and who I was as a person, because my identity as a 20-year-old was being married. And I had to kind of draw back to where I was and through my younger parts of my life to recreate myself in the end. So I started in architecture. I felt like that there was a missing piece, because it's actually like an industry, and I didn't go through all of this self-development and struggle to just like work for the man kind of thing, So there's this point where something just clicked, and like, hey, my life path is not meant to be this. As much as I love doing this, and maybe I still will be doing that, and I actually am kind of doing that. So, but I started to develop as an Indigenous person, trying to find out the roots of how we create as Indigenous people, from knowing where my mom was coming from in her life. And that been my life's journey, has been finding that spot. And because architecture education is so diverse, there was like technology, everything that I basically do. But my main thing that I've been focused on for the last few years has been like storytelling and trying to express Indigenous knowledge. So I just finished a 5-year project, which is a landscape project, which is based on women's teachings. And that changed my life, that project. So it helped me find the path more clear as a creator in who I am and what I should be doing, which is cultural work, giving back to my community. Thanks. Casey.
Okay, must see David. All right, so my name is Casey Koizan. I'm a Tlicho Dene interdisciplinary artist and musician, meaning that my art practice is all over the place, plus my music and audio practice is quite widespread as well. I think that I'd say that in comparison to a lot of people, I started quite late in the arts overall, and it feels like my art has always been in a state of transformation, and I really enjoy that and I welcome that, because I was taught at a very young age, with moving all around Western Canada, with my father, that he really made me understand that change is growth, and that if you just stay in one place, then you're not really going to grow in a lot of different ways. So he really inspired me to accept change in my life, and alongside that to take risks and that sort of thing, and to constantly like evolve yourself and your practice. So it really makes a lot of sense with my practice, because I'm using a lot of different mediums all the time, a lot of different technology, talking about different things, communicating different ideas. I feel that my culture didn't really have a presence in my artwork until after I graduated with my Bachelor of Fine Arts from Thompson Rivers University. Because before then I'd be asked, what kind of Indigenous art do I make and that sort of thing. And it felt very like stereotyped. Whereas at that time in my life, I was just learning how to be an artist, you know, not necessarily an Indigenous artist or making Indigenous artwork. It was just like just learning all the techniques and the things that I like and that I don't like. Because I initially went into my BFA wanting to come out being like a master illustrator and painter. But halfway through my BFA, I discovered sculpture and installation, and that just took me in a completely different direction. But even before that, with being in college, taking a multimedia production program, it really opened up a lot of avenues for different types of artwork and communicating different ideas with various mediums and that sort of thing. So with my art now, specifically in regards to how it can change the world or influence the world, I have a lot of emphasis on inspiring youth, mostly the youth within the Northwest Territories, because those are the people that I identify with the most, with having youth being in really remote communities and stuff, and being able to go in and do digital workshops, whether it be working with, you know, programs like Blender or VR software and hardware, in order to inspire them that, you know, it doesn't matter where you are in regards to location, you could still really do whatever you want. And there's a massive amount of talent, untapped talent, that they don't necessarily know, right? So if you're able to go there or reach them and inspire them to bring that out for themselves, then that's a big win for me. So I guess that's sort of how my art has transformed for myself personally and for the world overall. And I feel like it'll always be in a state of flux or transformation. And then with the with NFTs becoming a thing, it's giving this value and an outlet for a lot of digital art that I find a lot of digital artists can have this. It's not necessarily a problem. It's just a thing where they could produce a lot of artwork, but overall, like, the stereotype of that is that it doesn't have a lot of value, whereas NFTs are giving that value to these artworks because it takes time. You know, like a painting can take up to 10 hours and so can a digital artwork. So where is the value being placed? Is the value being placed on paint as a physical object? So I feel that what NFTs are doing is they're giving that value to this digital time and aesthetic, and paying attention to that talent, even though it's digital. Right. And that's also a thing, like removing that, like, even though it's like that shouldn't be a thing anymore. It's like digital artwork should have the same value. And I believe in a world that has gone through this massive digital shift, that it is something that should be valued and should have been valued. But I feel that we're at this precipice where it's like this kind of like transformation of how artwork is viewed, and as Quinn said, like how it's received in, like, you know, galleries and that sort of thing. Because I felt the same way as him in regards to that, is that it was really stifling. You know, there was this checkbox for an artwork. It's like, oh, can we hang it in a gallery? Can we do all this? And it's just like, well, we don't make that kind of art anymore. It's changed. It's transformed. The whole art world is transformed, and the pandemic has really been evidence of that. So I hope that we can go forward in a really healthy way and continue to, be successful in our own right, but also to really lift each other up. I think that is something that the world really needs right now. And yeah, that's kind of where I stand. Must see. I'll give it over to Isabella.
Thanks, Casey. I love what you're saying. My name is Isabella Murillo, and I'm originally from Lima, Peru. I'm a digital artist as well as urban artist, you could say. I totally agree with like what Casey said, because not until like maybe 2018 is like I didn't start accepting change as like the only constant thing that we have in life. So I feel like my art has very much transformed with me as I grow. For the longest time, like I didn't make art, probably for like, I don't know, like 5 to 10 years of like being like a teenager. And then I went to like college, and that's when I really like started making art. And not until I got out, I feel like I started getting more in touch with my roots and feeling like it was like my duty to like put out like my mission or like my views as a Peruvian artist, because I would look up, you know, like Peruvian art, and like there would only be like traditional art, and like there was such a small like I don't know, inspiration that I would see that I wouldn't see so much of myself in it. And not until like, I don't know, maybe like a year ago, like I really started putting like, okay, like I'm Peruvian and like I'm proud and I want you to see it, because I'm tired of like seeing other people like put it out and they're not Peruvian, they're just like making money off of it. And I'm just like, well, it's because we're not doing it. Like other people are going to do it because like, you know, like our culture is beautiful, and like we other people do like appreciate it more than like Peruvians do sometimes. So I feel like that's my duty in the world, and also to just inspire people to create. I've had so many friends like come up to me like, oh, I wish I could draw like you, I wish I could like make art like you. I'm like, you can just really do anything you want, and you don't have to go to school for it. Like art is like so subjective, and it really just depends who's looking at it and who's doing it. And like as long as you get it out of yourself, I feel like it's so therapeutic. And yeah, and I'm going to pass it over to Lee.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I've appreciated everything that everyone has had to say. And so a little bit about me is that I'm Lee. I am a non-binary musician, developer, and art historian. And I use they, them, their pronouns. And I'm based in Denver, Colorado, and I'm the technical community manager for the SuperRare platform. And one of the things that I've appreciated so much about where we are in this space, and what a number of you have alluded to, is that we are in this point, in this place of change. And so I think that you know, change can be something that is very difficult for a lot of people to wrap their heads around or to get on board with, but that is, you know, a part of growth. That is why transformation is needed, so that the tomorrow that we see will be closer to what we would like to have when the sun rises and sets. You know, we want that place that is comfortable and equitable for everyone. And so I think that we have this momentous opportunity to, you know, to continue at the forefront of that change and implementing these new practices. And I think that it's really interesting to see a lot of people struggle with the concept of an NFT, because it's this digital asset rather than necessarily being something that hangs on your wall, or you know, you have to go to a gallery to see. And so, you know, yes, like we are assigning a value to it, but you know, when you think about it, like what are words at the end of the day but notions, ideals, concepts that have been ascribed to particular lines and dots over centuries upon centuries upon centuries of human interaction. But now it's become accepted as like these grammatical rules of how we're supposed to use these words. And so again, we just assign value to it. And then the same thing with money. I mean, what is it but like with fiat, just like the waste of trees to make a paper that is printed with something that we have ascribed value to. And so the same thing is happening with digital art, and we've assigned it value. And now we're entering into this revolution where we are assigning value to digital creations. And so we need to keep pushing it until it becomes acceptable as that new set of rules of what is achievable. But now we have this wonderful opportunity to move away from so many gatekeepers, as Quinn was mentioning, earlier, that we can move away from those gatekeepers and we can assign value on our own terms to the own artists that we want to see at the forefront at this movement. And so that is what I'm hoping to do with my position at SuperRare, with my position as a musician, as an art historian, is to move us forward so that we can transform and we can see and be the change that needs to happen so that we can to support a more equitable future for all of us, because that will be the day when parents are encouraging their kids to be artists rather than concerns about you need to be a doctor or a lawyer. I'm like, yes, help everyone, but art has its own healing purposes and practices, and too many people are dissuaded from reaching their full potential because society hasn't deemed it as something that can withstand the test of time and the trials and tribulations of life, and having the fiat to support that equitable future that we've all been conditioned to believe is the only way. So that'll be the day when parents are encouraging the artistry of their children.
Thank you so much, Leah. That was absolutely beautiful.